talk about the dark side of addiction and what that means to us. So, Jim and I were speaking before we had gotten on this live for a little bit, just kind of going over, different directions that the dark side of addiction could mean. One of the things I was talking about was the stigma of addiction and how a lot of people tend to shy away from getting help and reaching out because they feel their boss or their, fellow employees or their family is going to feel some sort of way, right? They're embarrassed to reach out and get help. So that's one of the things that, had come to mind for me. And I just want to let everybody know, if you are watching this, which we appreciate, please like and share it. Share it on your page, your personal page, if you're comfortable with that. Maybe we'll wait for some more people to get on. Reach out and get help. So, and everybody just bear with me. I'm feeling a little under the weather today. So Jim, the dark side of addiction, what do you think?
Well, I mean, like we talked about in terms of, what our dark side was, any part of when we were using, it might be simple, but again, remember, our whole point is to reach somebody that's suffering and give them the message to reach out for, support and help. And the first thing I think of is, I started drinking when I was 15, and I was, and we talk about it all the time. It's difficult as it is to grow up and be a teenager, so throw in alcohol and drugs and lifestyle and, stunting our emotional growth and, the roller coaster of emotions and mood swings, I had without alcohol, and then throw in alcohol and hangovers and again, accomplishing nothing, 15, 16, 17, 18, right up until, I was struggling with my life up until I got sober at 26. And I talk about this sometimes. My story is, is not like yours. It wasn't horrific in terms of almost dying. And
you think mine was that bad?
Yeah, I've heard a few things. I talk about it. We talk about bottoms, and bottom can be just, a simple reference to, we can't get any lower, so we're desperate enough to reach out for help. But sometimes we break it down that, you can hit multiple bottoms, but the way that I described mine was, it was an emotional bottom, because I hated myself. I was self-loathing to the core, despair, shame, because I just kept doing it over and over and over again, and hurting my family, especially my mother, and couldn't couldn't hold a relationship with a girl, and did not have good relationships within my family with my two younger sisters. And, the first time I ever, and this is leading up to connecting to this, is the first time I ever drove, I was shit-faced, and I drove into oncoming traffic. And I don't even know, it wasn't even like, I wasn't conscious, like, oh wow, these cars are coming. It was just like lights, and maybe I should get out of the way. It was just like, I just happened to be able to avoid a crash. And luckily we were very close to home where we were. And then that leads me up to one night driving home, and there's a straightaway street a couple of blocks away from my house, and there's woods there at the end, and then before you have to make a right, you only could make a right hand turn. And I didn't talk about not conscious. wasn't having a rough night or I'm gonna I want to hurt myself or whatever, I just gunned the car in that moment and was gonna go try and hurt myself and go into the woods and hit some trees. And again, don't know what came over me, what happened, not conscious, thinking about it, but I hit the brakes, turned the wheel, and didn't do it. So, that's the places that we go to. Not only, continuing to go to drinking and drugging and knowing we're going to suffer in some way, that insanity, but the insanity that we, like we talk about that initial high that we had, whether it was our first hit or whether it was our first drink or buzz, and we're chasing that for the rest of our lives. At some point along the way, we know we have a problem. We know it's not working anymore, and we continue to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, my disease, as most of the people that follow me have seen in my writing, it brought me to a ton of dark places. Starts off fun, and then it brings you to motel rooms alone, and hospital beds due to overdoses, and bad areas, and hanging out with bad people. And I think the dark side of addiction also leads into like early recovery, for me at least. And
yeah.
I think that's really important to talk about, because you're so ashamed of all of the places that it brought you. And I was in debt. I was my family wasn't speaking to me. I wasn't invited home for the first 2 years of my recovery, which a lot of people don't know, because a lot of people learned who Louis was 2.5, 3 years into my sobriety, when I moved home from South Florida after getting sober down there. Most people know that I'm a huge advocate for getting out of state to treatment if your circumstances like mine, or where you've been so many times in your area, right? I had decimated everything in my local area, all relationships. I had no friends, no family that was supporting me anymore in addiction, right? And I just remember the first night I got to sober living after 30-day treatment episode, and feeling so lonely, so desperate to get well, but just not having any idea how to do it.